If you were to list the top 9 most formidable individuals in history, who would earn a spot? In this video, some names might ring a bell, while others might be new to you. But one thing's for certain, you'll be astounded by the extent of their audacity and prowess. Number 9. Alexander the Great. Let's slide the wheel back a few millennia to 356 BC, Alexander's birthday. There are a few things you can say about Alexander the Great, but a humble beginning is not one. Up until age 16, he was tutored by genius, scientist, and philosopher, and Aristotle age 20. He succeeded his father, Philip II, gaining the throne of Macedonia. Alexander played his cards stealthily and eliminated potential rivals to his throne, including his own cousin, Aminata IV. If you're wondering, there is a reason why they call Alexander great. This man's strategies and tactics are studied to this day by the military. In 15 years of conquest, he never lost a battle, and despite his clean sheet, he managed to become the king of Macedonia, the pharaoh of Egypt, the king of Persia, and king of Asia, defeated the Persians, took 2 Persian wives found in 70 cities, named at least 20 after himself, and 1 after his horse, all in just 12 years. Number 8. Helio and Carlos Gracie tie. At 5'6", 115 pounds. Helio Gracie was an unsuspecting candidate for establishing one of the world's deadliest martial arts, jiu-jitsu. Born in Belém, Dora, Brazil in 1913, he was often sickly as a child. One day, a Japanese jiu-jitsu master known as Tai offered to teach Helio's brother Carlos as a favor to their father. Helio decided to alter the techniques to utilize timing and leverage rather than speed and strength, of which he had less. In 4 years, the two had created what we now call Brazilian or Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Their version was so brutally effective that they easily defeated fighters 200 pounds heavier, no matter what the opponent's discipline was. Carlos once said, "When we go to ground, you will be my world. The ground is the ocean. I am the shark, and most people don't even know how to swim." Helio, unsurprisingly, became very popular with the ladies. His second wife was 32 years younger, and he had 7 sons and 2 daughters. One son defeated a sumo fighter, breaking his arm, and another ran the Gracie Challenge, where he offered $100,000 to anyone that could beat him in a fight, then went on to establish the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which sold for $4 billion in 2017. Number 7. Simo Heiha. Heiha, nicknamed the White Death, Simo Heiha. Heiha was the most successful marksman ever seen in war, accruing a ridiculous kill streak to rival any Call of Duty superstar player before becoming a soldier. Simo was a farmer and hunter and won numerous shooting competitions with a home full of marksmanship trophies. At 20, he joined the Finnish voluntary militia, the White Guard, and fought against the Russian Red Army in temperatures between -40 degrees Fahrenheit and -4 degrees Fahrenheit. Due to chaos within Russia, the Red Army was disorganized. Many of them did not even wear white camouflage in the winter conditions for Simo. This was like picking apples in summer, and he shared through their ranks ruthlessly. Simo reportedly killed 505 men in under 100 days, 5 kills a day on average between 1939 and 1940 during the Winter War. With his trusty M28 rifle and its iron sight, the Soviets used counter-snipers and artillery strikes against him in desperation. It wasn't until March 6, 1940 that he was hit in his lower jaw by an explosive bullet, which he fully recovered from. Later, when asked why he was so good at killing, he replied, "Practice." Number 6. Ching. Ching was a Chinese prostitute who took over as a commander after her husband passed away. She was said to take no BS from the 40,000 pirates under her command. Ching's iron rule was so effective that the Chinese government sent an armada after her, which she destroyed, capturing 63 of their ships. We call that checkmate where I'm from. For 2 years, the Chinese fought Ching, even recruiting support from the Dutch and British. They eventually gave up and offered amnesty to her and her crewmen. Ching was allowed to keep all of the spoils from her pillaging and became one of the few pirates to retire. She ran a brothel/casino in her retirement from the sea life and lived to see 69. Number 5. Desmond Doss. Desmond Doss was the first conscientious objector to be awarded the Medal of Honor during World War II. The 26-year-old medic risked his life continuously in order to save injured comrades. Doss was the son of a carpenter and a devout Christian, and despite displaying unbelievable heroism on the field, he refused to carry a knife or gun or any form of a weapon. In Guam in 1944, he braved gunfire, torrential rain, and mud in order to save fallen comrades. He was the only medic who was not armed on April 29, 1945. An attack in Guam left 75 Americans injured. Doss carried all 75 back to safety, despite being more at risk. As the Japanese would often target medics, he ignored people telling him to seek cover. During his time serving, Doss saved an estimated 100 lives. However, this is a modest estimate. He made it out of the war and died in 2006, age 87, and was the subject of recent Oscar-nominated movie Hacksaw Ridge. Number 4. Roy Benitez. Roy Benitez took the savior schema to another level. You can think of him as like a living Terminator, genetically infused with Forrest Gump and the heart of a Spartan. On May 2, 1968, a 12-man Special Forces team were dropped into a small clearing in Cambodia's jungles unbeknownst to them. They had dropped into a major enemy base and were soon surrounded by hundreds of enemies who attacked ferociously with gunfire. Roy heard this distress call and hopped on a helicopter without a second's thought to rescue the men. Benitez jumped 100 yards through enemy fire to assist his team. He was shot immediately and severely, and then shot continuously during his hours of rescue. He was hit with grenade shrapnel. At one point he was stabbed, but he took out the bayonet and killed the assailant, continuing with the rescue. He was injured so badly. Medics pronounced him dead, but before his body bag was zipped up, he spit in the doctor's face to show he was still alive, and they rushed him off to surgery for many months of intensive rehabilitation. Number 3. Peter Fruiken. Fruiken was an anthropologist, zoologist, author, journalist, and actor. In his 20s, he set out on expedition to the deathly cold Greenland and decided to live with the Inuits, taking one for a wife. During his 20-year stay, he killed a wolf with his bare hands, a polar bear which he turned into a fur coat trek 600 miles to prove a bet, and in 1926 plot out of a tomb, several meters frozen using his frozen faces. Then he crawled 3 hours back to camp and plucked out his gangrenous toes with pliers and a hammer to stop the spread without using anesthetics. Fruiken can then move back to Denmark in the 1930s, writing 30 books, becoming a bestseller. Married the daughter of a Danish multimillionaire after his Inuit wife died, won an Oscar, and became part of the resistance against the Nazis. When he was captured by them, he was sentenced to death but escaped. He continued to develop relationships with superstars, married a third time, became the 5th person to ever win the $64,000 question. The following year, he was given the gold medal by the International Benjamin Franklin Society for outstanding services to mankind in establishing new frontiers. Number 2. Hugh Glass. In 1823, Hugh Glass and his party were stationed in Grand River Valley, Yellowstone. When he came across a grizzly bear mother with her 2 cubs, she charged mulling. Glass screams were heard by the party, and they killed the bear with guns. Blood bubbled with each breath from Glass's ripped throat. His face, chest, arm, and hand were shredded by the bear's 3-inch claws, and it had chewed into his back and shoulder. The crew gave him until morning to live. On the 5th day, Hugh was still alive. He could only move his eyes, and the 3 watching over him decided to leave him for dead, freezing, and alone. Glass realized what had happened and summoned in newfound strength, crawling with his one good arm and leg. He let maggots and a rotting tree bark eat away at his infected flesh, and for food, he dug for bread, root, and robbed egg nests, seeing a buffalo carcass being devoured by a pack of wolves. He scared them away and ate the remaining bits of heart, guts, and liver. He then tracked over 1,000 miles to find his betrays, one of whom a young, terrified man named Jim Bridger he forgave. Number 1. Napoleon. Napoleon, considered the greatest military leader of all time. Napoleon was able to store unbelievable amounts of information about his enemy and territory, using his photographic memory, using it to obliterate them. Some say Napoleon's biggest strength was his ability to focus on the task at hand and shut out all other distractions. He once led 60,000 men across the hostile Alps through the Great Street Bernard Pass in order to gain victory in Italy by surprising his enemy, and signed 33,000 letters in his lifetime to ambassadors, ministers, and marshals issuing orders. He is quoted to have said, "Different subjects are arranged in my head as in a cupboard when I wish to interpret one train of thought. I shut the drawer and open another. Do I wish to sleep? I simply close all the drawers and there I am asleep." Not someone you would want to have a staring competition with, let alone a war. Napoleon brings real truth to the saying, "Your enemies never sleep." Who do you think was the most badass? Let me know in the comments section down below. Thanks for watching.